Okay, so it looks like they've actually really improved the replay interface. So I think this might be a better way to go through everything. Uh, Restart. I'm black green, obviously. Turn one Mystic. This hand is pretty good, even if it doesn't really do anything. I think that there's a lot of action in my deck to draw, and I think that Covenant of Blood is very powerful and helps me stabilize from light action hands. And with the Mystic, there's a lot of things that I can specifically draw right into and win pretty easily. So we're going to attack with Mystic on one. And there's a pretty key one coming up here. Our opponent's going to pass. There's no chance I'm attacking this turn. Even if he kept the hand without an extra land, that's fine. I'll play the control deck. But I just do not want to lose my creature to erase the alarm. Fortunately, we drew some action, and probably the best action in my deck, in Yisan the Wandering Bard. And obviously our opponent has raised the alarm. He plays a Wall of Mulch and misses his land drop, which means that we get to not only draw a 2-drop and cast it, which is real nice, but leave up Yisan. We don't have another 1-drop to fetch, but that's okay because our opponent is doing nothing. He literally just activates Wall of Mulch this turn and plays a land and a Soul Mender, which is not going to do anything against us. This turn, again, perfect. We draw a 3-drop so we can cast it with our Yisan. The Black Cat gets in because I have other blockers. Specifically, I don't want to get the Yisan in combat against a deck that could potentially have Titanic Growth. But the Witch's Familiar means that I'm okay shoving away with the cat. I don't need the second blocker because this Witch's Familiar, if he shoves in with his guys, I'm okay with blocking any of them and trading off that way. Or not even trading, just eating 1 for 2 damage. So getting in the extra damage here is pretty much free. So play the Familiar. He plays an Invasive Species. He's going to rebuy a land and replay it. And we're going to make a Satyr Wayfinder into his Sunblade Elf, which is good for us that he has Elf here rather than in a worse spot because he has not enough lands to activate it just yet. But it does mean I do have to get the business going. So we have our Wayfinder. We hit a Stab Wound and a Vampire, which is reasonable to restock some of those at some point. I draw for my turn. And it turns out that the mana works exactly so that I can Yisan up my last 3-drop, which is the Spider. Cast Covenant, and leave back a blocker. So my first instinct was to leave back the Familiar. But then I realized leaving Black Cat back is actually better here. So I'm going to try and kill the Sunblade Elf. If he has the Ephemeral Shields, I'm in a pretty bad spot anyways. So if he has it, it's better to leave back the Familiar so he can't attack with the Elf. But if he doesn't have it, this Black Cat's probably good enough to hold off all these 1/1s anyways. And it might actually hold off the 3/3/2 depending on what he has in hand. Whereas the Familiar is just going to hold off the 1/1s. But I think the cat does just the same amount. So yeah, you can actually see me go through the untap motions like, oh wait, I messed this up. Oh wait, I actually just want to leave back the cat anyways. So he gains his life. He plays his island, which is kind of confusing to me, or shocking. He plays the Military Int. I trade my Black Cat for a random card, which turns out to be Congregate. Not a card I'm super happy with in a deck, so I was kind of confused. He plays a Venom Sliver. Onward with life. Yisan gets to grow up. Here, I'm actually completely unable to do anything, except for Yisan represents Living Totem. So I actually get to attack with everything. He does get to eat my Mystic. That's fine, because I'm loading up for the other 4-drop, which is Underworld Scavenger. And he does trade here, but again, more creatures in the graveyard. So he thinks about blocking, realizes that I could have Totem to search up, and just no blocks, which was interesting. So we do now have a flash 6/6, basically. So our opponent's going to attack with 2 guys, and he's going to make a pretty big mistake here. So I get to make my 6/6, but he thinks that by Peel from Realitying my Yisan, he's going to get to make me search for 0, except for it uses last known information, so I get to search for a 4, which is my instant speed 6/6. And guess what? I blocked the 3/3. I probably shouldn't have, actually. I probably should have blocked the soldier. And the reason here is I'm at such a high life total that the extra 2 damage is basically irrelevant. But he has to use Titanic Growth to jump over here, and he can't jump the soldier over with a growth, but he can jump this guy over. My logic at the time was that I could restock and get back this guy anyways, but I think I'd rather just not trade it on this turn for the growth and get in the first attack for 6. Fortunately, he just has Stone Cold nothing. It's going to play Pilgrim, get the most miserable card for me to deal with. Spectral Ward. And now I just have to aggressively give him the business in order to kill him before the ward gets into a board state that matters. So this restock lets me rebuy Shadow Cloak and Covenant, which are the 2 most aggressive cards in my graveyard. Stab Wound here is not really good. He has to play another 3/3 for me to have a target for it. And it takes... I think that by the time Stab Wound would have caught up, Covenant would have been better. But even if he plays the 3/3, he has to be able to expose... He has to expose... No, he doesn't, because Spectral Ward actually doesn't work that way. But I think the Vampire having flying here is more important. So he's going to play a Trip Souls. Trip Spirits. Why do I think it's Lingering Souls? And I just make the decision that everyone's coming in. Yisan dying does not matter to me. It's a 2/3. It's not going to be able to search anything up on 1 or 3. And the 2 that it gets is a black cat or a bear. Like, it's not going to do anything for a while. Vampire comes down. This attack also is good because it eliminates blockers for the Vampire. And now he's in this really awkward spot. Like, if he puts the armor, the Spectral Ward here, I actually get to shove with everybody. He loses everything and eats the Vampire. And is facing down 3 attackers and this, and he knows I have a lethal spell in hand, so that's not going to work. He has a 4/4, which is reasonable. But now I'm in a position where I get to leap the Vampire. And actually, if I shove with the squad, so think about this. So he blocks here. He knows he can't take damage because he knows I have the Covenant from the restock. So he's effectively at 1. He can't... If I shove with everybody, his blocks are here, here, and he can't block down the Scavenger, so that's not good. So he has to chump the Scavenger regardless if I shove with everybody, whereas if I shove with less, he can actually go 4/4, 1/2, 1/1 on the Scavenger, kill it, lose a couple things, and maybe stabilize. I'd rather keep the 6/6 and lose a 2/3. So this combat goes exactly as expected. He loses all of his things. I play a Black Cat, and from here he has no flyer and loses. So game 2 is actually going to illustrate one of the things that I don't really like about this deck, and one of the things I think can be kind of a trapping green in this format, and one of the reasons I just don't like this charging Rhino card in the format. I mulled to 6. This is a fine 6. We boarded in Fester Gloom and 2 Naturalizes. We boarded out the Hunt the Weeks because it didn't look like he had creatures that I actually wanted to kill, and the Mind Rot. Because the other cards I'm boarding in are also conditional cards, but they're a little better against his Spectral Ward deck and Triplicate Spirits deck. So I missed my land for this turn, draw the Naturalize, whatever. So Black Cat comes down to stop his guy. Raises, plays a Marshal. I'm super pumped. He Explorations. Things get bad. I draw Restock, so I'm okay just blowing that for 2 creatures effectively, but pretty sure I have to. He plays the Spirits to kind of punish it, and now we end up in this really crappy board state. Well, you're going to notice that all my cards in hand are really clunky, and that's an easy problem to have with the green decks. And one of the reasons I think cards like Living Totem are really, really good. I think that Spider is really important. I think that a lot of the cards that people tend to like value, I think that like Elvish Mystic's actually kind of overrated because it pushes you into playing these clunky cards. I think that the The big premise I want to point out is that you want to be winning by attacking in this format. And you lose a lot of games where you have to be on the defense because the creature sizing just doesn't line up. There's no Fortress Crabs. There's no Siege Mastodons aside from Maggot, which is absurd. But even then, Maggot's almost as good attacking as it is blocking because it's a 3/5, and that's hard to block down. So it's very easy to end up in decks where your hands clunk up. And if I had something other than the Black Cat, maybe I could make a different combat step. But instead I got this guy who I'm not the hugest fan of, but it's in my deck. So as you'll see, I just won't draw land in time. This game is not going to be remotely close, and I very easily die. Game 3, I get to keep this wonderful hand, which is real nice. Playing Black Cat here because I don't need a ramp anyways, and Fester Gloom's going to kill the Mystic if I play it. That one might be important a little bit. Oh look, another guy that dies to Fester Gloom. And I'm okay with just getting the 2-for-1 because again, if he has the Spirits, I have the restock to rebuy. I also want to get that out of the way because I want to get the Mystic into play. And again, it fuels up this guy that I just drew, which again will be important. So he's going to play Species, which is sweet because I killed his 2 guys that he could bounce with it. He's forced to put himself back a land drop. I play that. He plays a Reclamation Sage. And I think for a second. Oh wait, no. I just shoved with Black Cat. There's a minute where I think about Hunt the Weaking. Or no, sorry, I don't shove. I have missed my recollection. I just shoved the Hunt the Weak. That's what it is. So my logic here is that I want to get this Scavenger above this Species, and I also get a Black Cat trigger to potentially pump my guy. So I get to trade Black Cat, Sage, Black Cat for Sage, and a random card, and the Hunt the Weak. But again, I have a restock to rebuy the cards that I'm spewing removal. I don't need to care about saving it for later. And again, I'm pumping up my creature that gives me board dominance. So, trade happens, hit his guy. He expeditions, fine by me. He gets 2 blue, which gets me a little scared because he probably has a soul in his deck, it seems like. Scavenger comes down. And he boarded in a Scavenger of his own. So I opt to restock my 2 removal spells, take his Scavenger hit, and he makes Triplicate Spirits. So I'm going to Fester Gloom. Hold on a second. You may have noticed something going on here. So I was going to Fester Gloom and then Hunt the Weak immediately. Then I rethought maybe I could play the Familiar this turn. And then in the middle of I'm just going to go for my original play. In the middle of everything, I didn't tap my Mystic for mana before casting Fester Gloom. As a result, I couldn't Hunt the Weak this turn because I didn't have a mana extra for it. And I'm forced into a position of Witch's Familiar. And then this cascades into another misplay where I attack instead of being able to block. And I take 3 extra damage in exchange for dealing him 4, which is terrible in this board state. He plays the Nimbus. I do get into a board state that's reasonable here, where I get to hunt down the Nimbus. If he has the Peel, I'm just dead anyways. But it's a little less dead because I get to hunt on the Witch's Familiar, killing the Nimbus here. And this also gives me a 3-power blocker, a 3/4 blocker for his 3/3, and when I stab wound his other guy, his 3/3. Shove for 5, and basically because of my misplay last turn, I'm in a pretty unsteady board state, and I have to push myself into an aggressive stance, which I think I reasonably started to do here. Except his next play is a bit of a backbreaker. Yeah, that's a nice one. So I draw a really good out to this, as it forces him down to 6 life, Hellbent. He has to attack with everybody because that's the lethal attack. I have the removal spell. He has 1 card in hand. And it's the whammy block plus make a 1/1. As a result, I'm dead on board and lose the match. So this game fell apart the turn that I made the mistake and tapped incorrectly. Probably would just behoove me to slow down a little bit on that turn. A bit of it was because I was kind of waffling between plays. But again, mechanics were not executed properly. But overall, I think that aside from that one terrible turn, there are a lot of good things here, like being able to burn the removal specifically because I have the restock. Um, let's see what else have we got going on in this game. There was the Hunt the Weak play. One of the things I want to note is that the reason I Fester Gloom then hunted is because if I hunt then Fester Gloom, I put a counter on my guy. It goes up to 6/6 with 5 damage. I Fester Gloom, it dies. So I did have to sequence in that order. Um, the hunt here on the 3/3 instead of here, which is just this Stone Cold Deadest to peel and also spreads out my toughness for blocking his 3/3s, which is pretty good. And I actually came reasonably close to coming back from that punt and the Feral Incarnation.